Oh man, I'm gonna tell you, boy, it's rough being retired and wanting to still be helpful to people. I appreciate that a couple of you guys have taken some time to try to reach out to other people as well. I got that there. Let's see. The thing should be able to let me grab the invite right from out of here, right?
Yeah, you should be able to just copy it. I mean, the copy link.
There you go. Everybody should be good. I did send you the transcripts from the Huey meeting though, Dele.
Yeah, you did. You did.
That's from the Huey, and he said inside of his that the moving party that the moving party gets to have the court reporter, and they play that game. And so anybody who happens to be on YouTube is coming back in as we gotten this going. Um, I had an interesting. They go times with this come. We got guys popping in now. That the funniest thing, I shouldn't say funny, what a peculiar thing happened. I acquired my transcripts, and although the people watching me on YouTube could see me pointing to my ears as I was trying to communicate with the court, and then eventually I got into the court told me that they were waiting for me, but in fact, the transcripts reflect that they could actually hear me because they're saying Mr. Dawson is trying to join. In that time, they sent my court reporter away. And according to them, it's so that they could save me money. But it still cost me over $500 to use their court reporter, and it took me some time to get them. The money is a smaller part of the issue. It's their tactics that are utterly despicable. But that's another thing, another story for another time, and we'll get to that as well. What's going on, Rick?
Hey, hey. Sorry, I was on a work call earlier,
Ain't
but
no
I'm here.
problem. Good, good, good. We're trying to get everybody to pop back in who was out on the because of my whatever my issues might have been before. I think we got it all settled now, and we'll get on to this thing about perseverance. Here they come. Was it perseverance, patience, and perseverance? Yeah, I forgot what it was called. All that bull crap I just went through. What's the name? What's it called? Perseverance and patience. Practicing perseverance and patience to overcome courtroom anxiety. What's good? What's going on, Brett? Good to see you hopping on here too. Yeah,
Doing well, man.
practicing patience and persistence to overcome courtroom anxiety. And welcome back, everybody. It was actually Dele's fault that I didn't do the last Barbershop Talk.
That ain't
Wow.
what you do, bro.
You know I can hear you, right?
So I've just been taking it easy, and I wanted to get into this because Brett, you're here, and Rick, I don't think you've had any. Brett, I've seen your stuff. So people are getting knocked down, and Brett had mentioned to me about showing guys what you call it a path forward. It's for some reason when they get that rejection, people tend to want to quit, and I wanted to talk to them about the need to keep to push forward until the Supreme Court tells you no, you always have a path forward. It's just exercising the right kind of patience to go through. But Brett, you want to go ahead because I don't want to take it from you because you're the one. Unlike some people who steal people's lines and rhymes, I'm not going to do that. But Brett, tell them what you're talking about, giving guys a path forward as far as them understanding this entire process as a self-represented litigant.
Yeah, I mean, what I've learned is, like you said, you got to keep pushing forward until the Supreme Court tells you no. These, for whatever reason, It's not going to be easy, no matter who you are and what you put on paper. That's been my experience. I think I've presented quite well documented motions with supporting case law to show that they needed to correct the things that have been done incorrectly in my case. Yet they're not making it easy. So I've already filed one appeal, and hopefully they'll take that one up. And I've had to file a second appeal, so that I'll be filing that initial brief coming up. So you just got to keep pushing forward. I'm not sure why I'm not getting what I think should be a quick response on an easy matter, but it is what it is.
Anybody else who's Daily, you're at the appellate stage as well. So just for the sake of posterity for the show, you want to give guys some of the and ladies who joined some of what you kind of run across too, because you and Brett are kind of on the similar places in you all's process.
Yeah. For me, I'm actually about to file two different appellant cases. I think for me, it was obvious that in one of the cases, there was definitely mischaracterization of the issue, and I think the thought process of that, I'm just going to let it go, and not move to the next step about it. So, but I definitely have, it was interested in the hearing because it was like, I don't know how you got to that point, but it's definitely one of those things where I looked up the standard of reviews, to see, okay, what could be filed for the appellant, what do you need to be able to prove, or at least say this is the reason why I'm having an appeal, for example, like abuse of discretion and things like that, and some remedies for that. So I'm in the process of filing two different appeals because of that.
And also, I wanted to say this. I talked a little bit about Brett, and I've talked a little bit about to you. Rick, you haven't got to the appeals part yet, right? Either one of you, Rick. But Rick, Texas, you're not in the appellate process, and neither are you, Rick, Florida, right?
No.
That's correct. I'm not.
All right. So we want to make sure we distinguish between abuses of discretion and errors of law. Correct, Brett and David?
Correct.
Yes, and I think you like to use the word reversible here.
Yeah, reversible error. Yeah, especially if it's an abuse of, if it's an error of law, then it's definitely, in most cases, I've seen it be reversible. So, JC, you had a question?
Oh no, you was asking about who's been in the appeal process. I was just letting you know I got all three of mine in the appellate court. They even expedited them. I guess when there's a matter with a child, they expedited them. So I got a case number for all three and all. So I guess I'm kind of just waiting for them to respond to that. I mean, they made me. I let them know that I'm gonna file for my transcript. Like they kind of just break it down. Once you go online and get the packet, it literally tells you what to put in line 1, what to put in line 2. And they kind of just walked me through the process. So it's been easier than I thought it would be. I'll say that.
You're in the first DCA, right?
Yeah, I'm in the first. Yes, sir. I'm in the first.
But you are in Tallahassee, so that might be.
Yeah.
I'll speak for the second DCA. That shit don't look like that for me. Yeah, and I got somebody else in the second DCA who's finding that shit don't work that smooth for us at all.
That's right. I'm wondering why.
Now, the judge, now in the lower cases, the judge, I felt like he just manhandled me. When I went for my motion to vacate, when I finally got in front of a judge, I had 45 minutes, and I thought it was going to be 45 minutes per case because I got 3 different cases with a lot of case law to go over. And man, they got me out of there so quick. It was like pretty much I'm agreeing with the hearing officer. And he just got me out of there. So I appealed it in a timely fashion, and that's the road that I'm gonna go. I went to court today to try to get my license back because for some reason they're just holding my license. And I'm like, the court order originally said as long as I do these certain things that they would give them back to me, but they're just refusing to give them back. They're like, well, if you don't pay these $1,800, we're not going to give them back. That's not what the judge is saying. That's what the child support office is saying. But now the judge is saying he doesn't even have jurisdiction to touch base on the matter because it's in the appeal process. He's like, you've already appealed it. I can't even, they need to follow the order.
That's true.
That's all he would tell me.
No, that's true though. Let's put it this way. Once the DCA or the appellate court got jurisdiction in that issue or that instance, then the appellate court now has jurisdiction over at least that part of it. But for now, as I understand it, the lower court can't. Well, is your case administrative or is it judicial?
One of them is two of them administrative. One of them is judicial.
Okay, in the judicial issue, from the judicial aspect, they can deal with some ministerial acts while the case is on stay, or if it's in the appellate part. What did you appeal all aspects of the case, or did you appeal a specific part of the case?
Pretty much, the original was like no parenting plan, no child support guidelines.
I didn't ask you to give me a goddamn description. I said, what?
Well, originally, I appealed that. The fact that my child support is not based on any guidelines or things like that. But I also appealed the order for them taking my license because they didn't show that I wasn't working. They didn't they didn't follow those procedures.
Okay, so it's two separate appeals. But if the original one is the one that you filed first, correct?
Yes, sir. I filed them together.
Okay, well. But
because it gave me the option to do that. It told me to attach all orders or recommended orders or judges, put it all up on this list.
Understood.
For each case.
No, understood. But this is what I'm trying to do. Your license was suspended. The license was suspended and you had an issue with the underlying court, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But you filed an appeal to challenge something that you got. You at some point challenged the original underlying order for whatever the reason was.
Yes, sir.
And you're saying that something that happened in the original case was violated some fundamental protection, and you're looking for them to reverse it, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then they came back later on to suspend your license, correct?
Yes. But I moved to vacate each of them. When I originally took the order back, like to try to get the reverse for whatever reasons that I did, they denied it. So I moved to vacate that order along with the child support suspension.
3 times. Right?
Say it again?
Three orders then, right? Yes,
I did them each for each case, 3 different orders for each case. And I understood them denying one, saying they didn't have jurisdiction because it's an administrative order. So I appealed that for different reasons, but the judicial one, they pretty much said I'm past the timeline. Like I should have been tried to get this fixed.
What are you appealing though? What are you appealing as far as? You're only appealing
appealing order to deny. Say it again, Greg.
What are you appealing in the administrative case? Are you appealing the the court's decision to not take up the administrative case? Because you're not going to get anywhere with that one. Or are you appealing something to come up with the administrative case?
I'm appealing the actual administrative case, the fact that there was no child support guidelines or no parenting plan. That's what I appealed to the administrative order.
Because of that, the court had no competent evidence to rely upon when they issued the original.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
No summons, no sir. It's a number of things.
No.
But
I get it. I don't want to hear the whole.
Yeah.
Thing. I just want to try to get to now. I'll say this without being. First of all, everybody, because I'm kind of late in this. I'm not an attorney. I'm not licensed to practice law. I don't practice law. What I do is study law. Tell people what I learned, how I gathered information. Information is advice to apply to your specific case. But the information regarding the law and lawful principles, which by the way belong to the people. So using information for educational edification only. And the reason I say that is because I want nothing I say to be construed to be legal advice. If you feel you need legal advice, I would highly encourage you to hire a licensed and hopefully competent attorney and be legally advised, as well as I don't say anything disparaging about attorneys. With that being said, if you wish to stay, you can and enjoy the show. Otherwise, you know, I guess kick rocks. But anyway, to the issue of his other issue, I believe, his other issue would be that if it was in the administrative aspect of it, for the two engineering people and math guys, well, I also got another math guy who's an accountant. He probably could have just filed a superseding order and then asked the circuit court to get rid of the administrative cases for the same reason. I don't know. Does anybody here have an administrative case? In Florida, at least. Your case is judicial, right, Brett? Because it's a
Yeah, although the state of Florida is trying to turn it into an administrative case, but you know, I'll be fighting them on that.
Okay, and Rick Tondrick, yours is administrative, and no, yours is
It's judicial, but they're trying to turn it into an administrative case.
okay.
But it will likely stay judicial because that's really what I'm fighting them on.
Well, it's judicial anyway, so they can't undo it. So okay, I just want to make sure. And any of the other people who have the administrative process is a little different. They still can't violate fundamental protections. But what I wanted to talk about today is the practicing of the patience and persistence to overcome courtroom anxiety. And I was kind of hoping, she must be at work. I was hoping Melissa would come on because she was talking about the intimidation of the courtroom. And I don't want to sound cold, callous, or condescending, because I had some anxieties as well in the beginning. And I think once I started kind of figuring it out, I wasn't so worried about it. I don't know if that's a personality aspect, if that's something psychological. I don't know what it would be. But Daily, you have commented to some of the people who have, like people who have test anxieties. I'm familiar with that, having worked in the education system, and having seen that quite a bit. Rick, you know, as a football player, when y'all, you know, some guys practice really well, and then when the lights come on, they disappear. And so I'm kind of wondering, I don't know, Brett, if an engineer can have anxiety by being at a project and understanding the gravity of what could happen in your area if the structure falls apart. I don't know. Is there to help people out who struggle in the courtroom? And I don't know, maybe it doesn't even apply to the courtroom. I don't know. So I just took myself and made myself a football player in the courtroom, and then it became a lot easier to me. But starting with you, Dele, and then going to Rick and then Brett, what would you suggest we could possibly use to help these people get through the part that you now have gone through? Because now you've been through the court process and you're comfortable in it.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm comfortable to your level, but at least I'm comfortable enough where I can connect the dots. You know, for example, if I was giving a presentation on a code I was writing, someone might come up with a question I don't anticipate, right? But I can connect the dots because it has to be something logical when you're dealing with code. And I have that same application when I'm in the law process where it's like, usually it starts with an inkling of a feeling where I'm like, this doesn't feel fair. So I start connecting the dots as far as what rules that, would apply in this case and whatnot. Like I'm not at the level where I say real time calibrating, but I will say I'm like damn near 70% where I'm like, okay, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. But I know a few things that help me is when reading case law, seeing how, things, analysis are done on certain levels of statutes and things like that. That helps me a lot because that almost seems like watching game film, of how other cases have been handled. And then the other part is also, this is the hard part is you have to take it and make it be your own. You have to internalize this information some way, somehow, right? Whereas now, like, oh, Greg said this way. No, when I hear something, I take it in and say, okay, you know what? How do I make it my own? Because I'm a visual hands-on learner. So now I can put in a different model that when I'm in that courtroom now, I'm not trying to recall what the words Greg said. I'm trying to recall how I remember information. right? So it's a lot easier for me that I don't have breakdowns in the courtroom. So internalizing it is part of the biggest part that the biggest hurdle people are going to have to overcome.
And it's kind of interesting because I'm talking to the math guys. I know you all do process, and the courts do as well. Rick, you're a little bit of a different kind of math guy. I know you do numbers, but what would you suggest? And you've also been through the process. It keeps you from being nervous or going through it, unless there is. I mean, I have anxieties, but not to where I'm intimidated by being in there.
Yeah, so one, I think is when you go in the courtroom, you got to know what to expect. And of course, through these classes, you've helped us tremendously understand what is it going to be like. And honestly, too, the way that I feel going in there is the judge and everybody else is against me. But as you go in there, you have to be prepared. You have to know your material. You have to know your case, and you have to present it in a way where the judge understands. And of course, most of us, I think all of us are not lawyers, so you don't have to use all of the legal jargon. But of course, you have to connect the dots. And if there is specific case law, then yes, you have to utilize that as well. And I think too, this is like me, whether it's in a courtroom or at work, or if I have to present to somebody, something that I say to myself is, whoever I'm presenting to, they put on their pants and shoes just like me. They're a person, they're a human. So the judge, they're human. The judge at one point, was very new in his or her career, and they might have been nervous just being a judge. So that helps me. As I go into a courtroom, I look at the judge as they're no higher than I am. They're equal. They're a person. So that's something that's helps me.
You also played college football. When I said something about particularly when it comes to the law, people saying they're intimidated by somebody told me earlier this week, and Daly was on there, that it's an intimidating situation to be in a courtroom. I said, okay, yeah, I kind of get it, but it's kind of like once you take that first hit, you're ready. Did you apply anything else to what you do? Or is it, when you guys are highly educated, so I guess you may deal with it differently, but when speaking to us guys who are not as highly educated, what, and you're a math guy too, so it's always strange. I love to know how you guys' mind works, and then also you all don't make as many mistakes. I don't think with your approaches. Like once y'all put it in a process or an order, the sequence is a sequence, and you all don't deviate from sequence. How do we get guys to do that? Or do you exercise any of your other on the field stuff to help you in these processes?
Yeah, just related back to football. When I played my first college football game, the night before, hell, I was nervous as could be. Could barely sleep. And then, you take that first snap, you're nervous. And then as the process goes on, the second snap, the third snap, you're getting used to it. You're feeling comfortable, and also you've prepared for it. So as you're in the courtroom, I think too, you're gonna be nervous to start. But as you start speaking and you listen to yourself, and you're like, well, yeah, that sounds good. I've prepared for this, and the judge, is nodding their head, yes or no. It just gives you more confidence. So I think as you're going, you build on confidence as you're in the courtroom as well.
All right, cool.
I want to jump in and correct something real quick, because I think for me, gaining comfort with the process has a lot to do with competence, at least a certain level of competence, right? Because to the statement where you made, where like when you take your first hit, now you feel like you're ready. Yeah, if you've trained and you have some degree of training, but if you don't, that's where the flight comes in. You panic and you flee.
That's interesting. Mike, MJ, you had you've done it at a much higher level than at the highest level when you've competed. And you do what you do professionally outside off the field. Now that you've retired from that, is there anything that I could help people with, and you also do public speaking, that would help them understand that it kind of like it just is what it is. Like A gap is A gap. Your protections are your protections. There could be things that happen along the way, but if you're once you know the situation, you know the situation.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Mike.
Yeah, no problem, man. I appreciate the question, Greg. And what everybody been saying, I totally agree. I mean, I had a running back coach my rookie year, and he played 14 years in the league. And it was one thing that he always said. He said, verify and then simplify. So basically, it's just like knowing exactly what you're doing, simplified, and just doing your job, like cutting out all the noise. I know for me, anything that has made me successful in situations is that's what I done did. I done verified what I need to do, then simplified the task and went through with it, you know? So like with anything, you're gonna be nervous. With anything, there's gonna be anxiety. And we talk about even taking that first hit. I mean, but for me, what made me better the night before games is I played the game in my head. Like I went through scenario. I probably played the game 3-4 times in my head before the game, just because I didn't know what to expect. I know some things are coming, but there's gonna be surprises. And I was also knowing that if I think it's gonna be hard, it's gonna be easy. If I think it's gonna be easy, it's gonna be hard. So I just went into everything with that aspect and simplified as many things as I could and did my job.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you stopping by as well, because when I heard, and I'm about to go to her now. When I hear people who I know I think so many of you all are far more talented at what you do than I have been, particularly even at this, because for whatever the reasons are. So I see the ability in people, and I'm just trying. I like to verify it and then simplify it. I like that approach. You had something to say, Texas Rick?
Nah, you good, you good.
Okay. Yeah, I like to verify and simplify. And that's kind of like we say, kind of keep it short and sweet, or keep it simple, stupid, or stupid simple. Um, but I do appreciate that. Melissa, are you there? Oh,
Yeah, I'm here. I made it.
okay. So, we spoke earlier this week, and I said I was going to do this kind of presentation for those who, because you said something that caught my attention about the intimidation of the courtroom, and you play high level softball.
Number one catcher in the state of Florida.
Right. So everything, and I know with baseball, it's a thinking person's sport, and sometimes you try to predict or you anticipate. And with the things that go on in the courtroom, what I would want to say, not just for you, for anybody who may be otherwise intimidated or have these anxieties about it, is I like the part of the verify and simplify, but also the preparation. Somebody said something about you're prepared. Once you're prepared, I think it's time. Once you're prepared, it is what it is. And I believe that a lot of people could get a lot further in the process, and also understanding, because I know you fell off because of our technical difficulties, understanding there's going to be a process. And even when you're otherwise right on time, Brett was saying, even though you should be getting these results, if they don't come, you don't quit. And we also don't want to fall back into the frustration of feeling victimized, because I know that's easy to believe, because I'm there often also, but stay in the course to move ahead. But did you want to have anything you want to add to for the guys who we're looking forward to hearing from you again?
So I'm gonna say the same thing again. Like, and forgive me, my 12-year-old decided to be super generous and give me whatever plague she has. So I'm pretty sick right now, but really it's just I had a hearing on Thursday of last week, and here's one bit of advice. If you've had this hearing officer, you've had this judge, I made a rookie mistake, and I mean rookie mistake. I was like, oh, okay, I've had this person. She was very reasonable. She was very fair. She rolled by the books. So I did not prepare as much as I should have. I did not have all my documents in front of me. I was just like, okay, I got this, no big deal. It was a big fucking deal. I was thrown a curveball and really I was dumbfounded. And it just, you can't expect, when you go into these court hearings, you have to understand that, like, sort of like the emergency room doctor who gets tired of hearing the people who are like, oh, I'm hurting so bad, I'm hurting so bad. They become complacent, they become jaded to the drug seekers. And I feel like this child support people have kind of the same mentality, is like, they have already sealed our fate. They have already judged us. If you sit in that chair that says you are the one who has to pay, fellas, go in there knowing you're gonna get treated like shit. You're gonna feel that energy towards you sometimes, not all the time, but I didn't believe it until I sat there for myself. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I understand what these guys are feeling now. Before I could only empathize and I thought I understood. But it's not until you sit there and you, no matter what you're trying to say, the energy, it's a combination of everything. And it can really get to you. You got to prepare. You got to prepare. You got to prepare. I should have done better. I knew better. Um, for me, it was kind of like the audacity. Um, granting relief that was not petitioned or not pled. So like, if I hadn't known that rule, if I hadn't known that it is outside of a hearing officer's authority to grant relief to a party that relief has not been pled, it's not been requested. But I only know that because I've read the laws, because just like Greg said, I went in the beginning and I had my ass handed to me. And I mean, I walked out of there in tears, like so mad I was just bawling. But it really made me connect with guys on a whole nother level. Like, so I don't know. I'm still kind of blown away by what happened with my case on Thursday. I have 3 major things that I'm going to go through, but just don't give up. Just like Greg says, I mean, I sat there Thursday, I bawled my eyes out. I was like, how dare that bitch? Like, that's not legal. That's not just, it's not moral. And I was going to give up. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck that. I'm not a quitter. I'm not a quitter. And my ultimate goal is to one day help and make it to where none of us are dealing with these kind of issues. Like,
I see. Hold on. I remember. It's kind of like, well, you're a softball player, and I think I have. I don't know if I might play baseball too, but it's like the target is the target.
yes.
Everybody just focus on the target, and the other stuff, the outside, like once the pitcher pitches, whatever happens, whether you swing the bat and get contact and get it to where you can get a base hit or get whatever, a home run, or you miss it, whatever it is, you step back out, regroup, and you step out the box, or she throws a bad pitch, it goes outside the zone or whatever, you don't go for it, it has to go back to the pitcher. Whatever happens, always be prepared for what happens next. And I think a lot of this, the patience aspect, is what I wish I could get more people to exercise, because it's not the end of the world. It's just the end of that particular segment or that portion of the case as it relates to that situation. And I think that a lot more people can get success if they don't look at what is as whatever happens unsuccessfully as being the end of whatever's going on. Chris, you had an issue. You wanted to say something, Chris?
Yeah, I just kind of want to Miss Melissa. I totally wholeheartedly agree with you. I recently had a court case earlier last month. Well, later last month. I felt the same way, but I'm still pushing forward. Like Greg told me, you got another process, the appeals process, and that's what I'm utilizing right now. I knew that the judge was biased, so I tried to dot my I's and cross my T's in regards to that. So I overstudied. I put everything in there to address every situation, and I didn't even get a chance to like cross-examine the witness. I didn't get an opportunity to, you know, confront the attorneys about the finding of their facts. Um, the judge basically litigated the whole our whole hearing proceeding and wouldn't allow me, you know, time to speak. It wouldn't allow me, you know, time to prove my point. Uh, and I just explained to her I didn't object, but I did file it for the record. Uh, but yeah, I'm going through the appellate process right now, and we all just got to stay strong. I mean, it's very easy to get in trouble, and we just realize in the aspect that it's extremely hard to get out of it. So I just keep that in mind and I push forward.
And that's what people have to do. And I appreciate Daily, and Daily put that link to the Telegram.
Telegram, yeah.
Put that Telegram link inside the chat, inside the room for everybody to reach out, because I still do, I'm still available, and I have people who are still having services. But one thing is, I'm hearing it, and sometimes you need it. Everybody, you all need to talk each other up. Meaning, like when if you're in a weight room and you want to lift, you're lifting, you have to have that guy that either one guy is going to spot you, but in larger groups, people speak to you to motivate you. Like, you can get over this hump. You can do it. In the military, we have that. Guys that struggle losing weight are being prepared to get through basic training, certain other obstacles, one of the biggest things in the military as you elevate is land navigation. They'll drop you somewhere, give you coordinates, getting to where you need to go, find the coordinates, pulling them, whatever. And you need people who can help kind of walk you through. There's a lot of people who fall off because of land nav, and that is unfortunate. And no matter what it is in life, no matter what the endeavor, there's going to be times where people struggle to get through there. But when it comes to this right here, is create support groups if you can get them, and help each other out. And again, I'll still do this for the foreseeable future. I'm guessing, unless Daily keeps me from making the show like he did last week. But then I'll try to be here to encourage.
Objection. Hearsay.
Well, actually, you just would ask me to proffer. It wasn't hearsay. I just said it. But you want to say he has anything that you can rely upon to any comment?
Meaning you don't have any evidence to prove
there
that,
you
sir.
go. There you
That's
go.
my point.
Yeah. But that's what I'm gonna stick to it. So now the jury decides. But it's not easy. And I don't know if he's gonna speak or not. He can raise his hand. But UB had said to you all a long time ago. It's not just about the process, it's the studying part. And you all have heard from Jimmy, he's working right now. So I went through a lot of this. But you all have, I think y'all are better prepared than I ever could have been going in. I think a lot of you guys the intelligence is not even a question. At least not with the guys that have come to this group that I can see now. We've had some people come in whose intelligence I would question, or their logic. But you all have great resources with this, and I want to see more people get success. And the way to get success is to endure through until the end. That's how you get it. And listen, focus on the end goal. My dad used to say, set a long-term goal and have short-term objectives. Is what he talked about as far as going to school. He said you'll find yourself completing those short-term objectives, and ultimately the long-term goal will be there. And I would say the same would apply as it comes to the child support situation, or whatever your cases are. It's just a matter of staying the course to get the relief that you may be entitled to. So I'd say that. Was there anything else that I needed to cover that I did not cover, Dele, as far as this patience issue and the intimidation issue? Or anybody, if you all want to raise your hand or have any comments or something you want me to address. I know, Rick, you had something you wanted me to address earlier. I don't know if I may have taken care of it, Texas Rick. But does anybody else have anything that they wanted to add to this as I am looking at the clock to get out. This retired thing kind of feels kind of good, but just is there anything I forgot to get into? Plus, not just retired. I do have other cases. I have an appeal that's due. I have an initial brief that's due on the 28th, which I'm taking care of. I also have I'm still waiting for them to make a decision on my 11th Circuit appeal issue. I have the case that I filed against Austin Rowan Basketball, which I'm going to start talking about some of my other cases, not of course on you all's time. I think this is the people's time, but I'm going to start putting out podcasts and other videos on some of the other things that I've gone through. The attorney's pretty upset with me, but I don't give any damn about him or anything they have going on. I found out that, like I said, the judge and then were talking about me while I was sitting in the waiting room. But is there anything that anybody wants me to address that I may not have addressed yet?
Where are you with the Department of Revenue case?
I was going to talk to you about that, and I do see that Rick about he's working subrogable rights. So make sure I bring up that daily before I get off. Oh, right. I haven't filed the Department of Revenue case. Everybody saw it. Now that we have a new head of the Health and Human Services Department in Robert Kennedy, I think I'm going to file that lawsuit. I reached out to the guy. I haven't heard anything back from him, but if you could do that, Rick, to kind of get him to kind of speak to it, I'd like to have at least review both of the lawsuits, because one includes the federal agency and then the other one doesn't. It's for state, and it includes the state actors, actually. No, just one state actor, I think. But they're drafted, and I can tweak them to make them hopefully palatable. But if he wants to take either one, they're both personal, but he could take the information, I believe, and help many people in their situations. And I don't think there's anything that we're going to be wrong about when it comes to the calculation part of it.
Right.
So, did you have an aspect of that you wanted to?
No, I'm just, very interested in that. Of course, I filed a lawsuit against the Department of Revenue, which ultimately got dismissed. But, just I want to see that case through with you.
No doubt, man. I sent it to you, correct?
Yes.
Well, if you already have it, then I think you have the finished. You have actually my finished one, I believe.
Okay.
Do you have one or you have two of them?
I have one.
Okay. I'll send you both of them. Melissa said, "What was the purpose of the lawsuit with the Department of Revenue?"
In your case, Greg, or for me?
She's asking you. She's asking you.
Yeah. So essentially, it probably would cover basically would cover pretty much everything under a class action lawsuit. But it was for me personally. The department, took away my passport. They sent various letters to my job. There was an error in the calculation for $5,000. It was a whole lot of things, and it was just ongoing issues that I had to encounter. At one point, they stopped taking money out of my paycheck. But for me, I follow up, every week or month, analyzing stuff. And if I wouldn't have caught that, I would have basically been behind and would have taken my license. So it was just a lot of things. So I had a lot of different counts in there. And essentially, it was a civil case that I filed where I was looking for, monetary damages. Ultimately, it got dismissed, but I did have my day in court to present, and this was all before I knew Greg. And I do realize there's the appellate process, which I did not go down that route because again, this was I probably met Greg maybe a year after I did that case, which I know I still might have been in the window, but I've just continued to focus on the cases that are up against me now.
And you also had a favorable outcome, even with because to say it was dismissed may be almost like a misrepresentation because you got the credit for the money that you overpaid.
Yes.
So it wasn't like there may not have been a justicable issue because you'd already received the relief that you could have sought. Because don't forget, to sue it's difficult, to overcome the threshold to sue the state. And in Florida, 768.28, look and see if your state waived its sovereign immunity, but you can still get relief compensatorily by doing what we're talking about doing anyway, Rick, which is the calculations issue for each person's case. I think that's, and by the way, people, even if you don't get your case dismissed or thrown out, if you find in anywhere from what we're figuring, Rick, between $50 and $300 or $400 per month error, that could be substantial over the course of some number of years. Correct, Rick?
Absolutely. And, for a gentleman, Greg, that sent me the information or, research his information, I forget the amount, but I think it was close to $10,000 that he should be offered relief for. And it was just because when they took his financial numbers, they did not take into account that he had other children. So other children would technically lower your child support amount. And I went in, did a few calculations, and over the span of when that order was issued to the time the child turned 18, it was $10,000 that he would have essentially had to pay in abundance, and it's not correct, and that can be challenged at any time.
At any time, right? And so that could be relief. And when we're talking about attempting to help people, and this is for anybody out there who may hear this, whether you're on the live, which I don't even know how that even works, or if you hear it in the future, is you're talking about such, I don't want to sound patronizing, but it's like an easier pathway to getting relief than some of this other fantastical bullshit that people want to believe in. Those things are pretty much easy to find. All you got to do is give us, not us, I always recommend you go to an attorney, take to an attorney, original petition, anything filed in between the original petition and the final judgment, but definitely the final judgment, and a copy of your case docket. There's too many cases. I have not seen a proper child support case since 2011 or 12. Since 2011 or 12, when I first started taking on this stuff, and I didn't even know, I'm not even close to where I wasn't even close then to where I am now. I just think that we could find just easier pathways to relief if you just let us deal with the numbers. And then you got guys like Dele, and you got Brett, and you got Rick, who are numbers guys. I just think that would be the most prudent pathway. As far as your case is concerned, I mean, I could look at that to see if there's some fundamental things. Well, I'm sure, and I know an attorney could do that because they do.
By the way, you want to say that applies specifically to Florida, because in Minnesota there is a 20% allowance in in fuck up.
Wow.
Well,
just so you know.
Let's see if there's an allowance for a fundamental error. So maybe we look at your fundamental errors doctrine to see if a fundamental error would require reversal, and then you may not have to worry about the 20% issue.
Yeah, that's the strategy I'm going with. But I'm just saying that fuck up in Minnesota won't get you anywhere.
Well, that being said, no, but I just think we can get a little bit further. And and also I wanted to say this also before I get into the subrogation question. Please don't send me things from people. I have nothing against some of these other thoughts and stuff for child support, but before you all out there in general send me any of that goofy shit, read it yourself. Your answers are going to be there. I don't want to see anything else about somebody talking about child support is fraud. I don't want to see anything else from anybody talking about what's the other thing? It's unconstitutional. I don't want to hear any more bullshit about a judge. If a judge signs an order, it's void or something is not good, which is just goddamn ridiculous. If we're going to talk about something with me, talk about the merits of the case, which goes back to subrogation. Inside, and I guess Rick was listening to one of my audios that are inside my Dropbox. And there was an instance in the case that I was involved in where the attorney for the state said that the mother applied for benefits, the benefits, state gave benefits, and the mother subrogated her rights to the state and some other blah, blah, blah. And are you there, Rick? And I said specifically to the hearing officer, actually I said to her, is it your position that the state, that the mother applying for benefits gave her a subrogatable right? And to that, the hearing officer said, what, Rick? Do not answer that question. I don't know, Rick might be working still. Told her not to answer the question. And then naturally, I said some pretty choice things to him, and me and him got into it, and we just shut it down. And he forwarded the case to the judge, which brought me back to where we are now. And it was actually the same Smallwood case. I just thought it was a really interesting comment. You there, Rick?
Yeah, I'm here, but why would he tell her not to answer that question?
Objection would cause for state of me. I don't know his state of mind. I just know that for him to tell her what to do sounds like giving her legal advice, and he's supposed to be a hearing officer. But he's saying that to the attorney for the Department of Revenue, not to answer that question. It's like if you read inside the Blessing versus Freestone case, and I know somebody throws that around as if it, and I don't even know what the fuck he's talking about when he's talking about the case because he sounds ridiculous. Essentially, the federal government gives the state government money to run the program. The state has broad discretion as to how they run that program. That program can be run with a lot of variance, except one thing that they can't do is violate any well-established rights, okay, or any well-established law, or any protected right, any well-established law. So what Justice Scalia pointed out is that it's an A and B relationship with every other person not being a party to the case. But what he also said, the back end of that is to say that the mother does not, that the state has no obligation to do anything for the mothers because they're in compliance, does not mean that the mothers don't have, wouldn't have an independent cause of action. And for those of us who've gone through a divorce, you would understand what the independent cause of action could come from. If you were divorced and the court determined that the father had, or the mother, one or the other, had to pay support, that's an enforceable right. And if the other party didn't pay it, that party who had the judgment in their favor could move to enforce the judgment. Okay. Does anybody have any questions with that? And I hope, did I make that pretty simple, people? And if not, raise your hand. And did I make that clear also, Rick? We talked about it off air, but the subrogatable right is, okay, what is a subrogatable right? In insurance, you understand it because what? The insurance company paid you for the damage somebody else did to you. And as so long as you have that kind of uninsured motorist protection or the proper protection, the insurance company may pay out the claim and say, I'm going to go after them for the money because they're the proximate cause of your injury. And we took up that liability for them up to the limits of your coverage because you paid a premium. And there's other nuance to it. But essentially, they're saying the mother subrogated her rights. Okay, but even if she subrogated her rights, what set of meritorious determinations showed that she was entitled to anything? Not to say that she's not, or she's not. With the guy, it's going to be a little bit different because generally for a man to have gotten custody or to be a primary residential caregiver at some point, for him to have gotten custody, some set of things were going to have taken a place along the way. Okay, I'm glad you're back, Brett. I'd asked the question, Brett, about anxiety and nervousness when we talked about courtroom, but you have a pretty unique skill set in that you're an engineer and you all do construction. Were there any things or anything that you practiced so that when you did your first site, and I'm pretty sure for the rest of y'all's lives, once you all do whatever impact studies, you hope to hell the thing doesn't collapse. What did you do to be confident or comfortable in doing whatever you have to do to make sure that your structures don't fall the hell down on somebody?
Well, it comes down to practice in education and training, right? So I remember the first time I signed I forget if it was a letter or a set of drawings, but the first time I signed anything as a professional engineer after being licensed, I'm looking at it twice and three times because I'm thinking, okay, is this correct? Is this correct? Because once I sign this thing, I'm responsible for it. So it all basically anxiety, and I'm just moving forward until either they correct it or the appellate court corrects it, or hopefully.
I don't know what I might have lost along the way. I hope everything is still working.
Yeah, we're good, Greg.
There, Daily, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Brett was just going on, so we'll keep it going.
Yeah. And just one comment to Brett, everything that he was mentioning there. So even if, we don't make a change necessarily in our case or seek the justice that we're trying to get, our actions are still helping someone else that will go through this process later. And, I was a direct effect of that, where I sued the Department of Revenue and the clerk of court themselves. And going through the process, I specifically showed where an error in the calculation was.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you. And I showed an error in the calculation. And in essence, the clerk of court lawyer, apologized. They never said that they were wrong, but they apologized. And I can tell you that they did go back and put some policies and procedures in place.
Okay, I don't hear anybody else though, so I guess that's a good. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm sorry, I got hit with a power surge. I don't know what just happened in here. I don't know if they're doing anything out here around the area, but hopefully everybody got whatever was said by Brett. Because Brett, I can't hear anybody or anything at all. So let me make sure that all my oh, there we go. Daly, are you in there now?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, cool. I'm sorry about it. Did everybody get to hear Brett finish his did y'all get to hear him finish it out? Because I went away.
Yes.
Well, you interrupted him, Greg.
Oh, I go ahead, Brett. I don't know what the hell happened.
I didn't want to say that out loud, but you did.
Yeah, they can all hear that. Yeah, exactly. See, this is the same thing with me on here.
Yeah, Rick was actually chiming in too, so I was listening to what he was saying. So Rick, pick that up.
Yeah.
Are you in Florida?
Say that last part again.
Are you in Florida?
Yes, I'm in Florida, Orange County.
All right, well then I definitely need to talk to you because I need to do what you just mentioned.
Yeah. And all I was saying, Greg, is that, I sued the clerk of court themselves along with the Florida Department of Revenue. Ultimately, I did not win in my case, but the clerk of court essentially apologized, never said that they were wrong, but they apologized for things that I had to go through and stated that, they'll continue to review policies and procedures. So our actions, that what we're doing is, even if it doesn't help us, is helping someone else down the line. So I still see what I did as a win, even though it wasn't a win for me, but it's a win for someone else.
It was a win.
Yeah.
It was a win.
Well, not just a win, it also becomes case law if someone else's win that someone could use in their case.
Or precedent. Yep. There's a precedent.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Rick, I'm hoping that I can actually sue and win. I don't see why I wouldn't. That's why I'm kind of interested to hear from you. Maybe we can connect separately later.
Yeah, I'll put my number in the chat.
All right. I mean, my issue is very straightforward. Now, it's a little bit complicated in terms of the timeline, but even if we just remove everything from the previous orders, and we're only focusing on my latest child support order, but they were all wrong. If they did not do the calculation according to the Florida statute, and it's outside of the allowable deviation, then it is not according to law. And that's where, we've put in there it's reversible error. I think it's void because it's not consistent with the statute. So I definitely need to hold them accountable, and I want to file that suit at some point in time. I'm just trying right now to fight this with the appellate court and hopefully get them to put the district court in check on two issues. So I definitely want to talk with you, Rick. And if we can get if I can get some success on what should be clear, clear fault on their part and get that case law out there. I think that'll be really helpful because my experience is while there's case law out there that clearly supports that the district court and even the administrative court must follow Florida statute, it's not really clear the way they write it. I don't know what your experience is, Rick, but it's like you can't really get a straight answer out of these case law representation of what happened. Is that what you're experiencing?
Yeah, and honestly, too, I've learned that law, the way law is written, it can always be challenged one way or another.
Right. It's never clear cut, but it should be. But that's the problem is that
Right.
in some cases, the way they write their opinions, they will say specifically, yeah, the lower court erred in its child support calculation as it was not consistent with Florida statute, 61.30 section so and so.
Yep.
So they will provide that. And the lower court does not have the authority to deviate from that because the appellate court, what they write, that is the law. So what I want to get on the books is that these guys can't just make it up as they go. I want to make it clear, I guess, in whatever I can do to hold them accountable with the suit.
Right.
Well, the thing that you're doing is you're fighting. You're going to court. It's disappointing. And I know you have plenty of other things you could be focused on. So it's great when you have people who actually, well, for the most part, when you have professionals in these areas and you all are beneficial because the math component of this is what's fascinating to me. Probably definitely less my area of expertise to the degree that like a Daly, Brett, or Rick can look at the numbers and do those kind of calculations. And then, of course, with Rick, you being able to do them on large scales, because you're an accountant for a very large corporation. I just know that a couple wins with some guys like you, Brett, a couple wins here and there, I think that it will get somebody's attention, and that's what I would like to see. You just got to get the right person's attention. And if they do what y'all call an audit, right? Because you go through audits too, right, Brett? Or do y'all not do audits and that kind of thing?
No, we don't do audits. I mean, other than the state maybe auditing your professional development, but
Okay.
no, we don't really audit the engineering. If somebody feels like their engineer isn't representing them well or hasn't done something correct, then they would get a third party opinion, and then that other engineer would come in and it wouldn't be an audit per se, but they would review the work is done, the work that was done.
But Rick, you definitely do them, right?
I do audits, and then it's also a term called completeness and accuracy, which basically is a check all the way from the beginning to the end to ensure that everything is in balance. And honestly, too, that was something too that I referenced in my case is that within the court system, like there is no accountants doing the child support numbers. I assume it's just the admin person saying, hey, I'm pulling these numbers here and there. To me, it should be a professional that deals with that and understands, the financial components behind everything.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. But I think that there in theory is that. Isn't there an office of budgeting and accounting?
I mean, it is, but they're not the ones handling the child support numbers.
Well, no, they would handle any numbers that are because child support is still state, right?
Yes. So once the numbers are written down and documented that the judge states, here's your order and here's how much you're supposed to pay. Yes, those are accounting folks that deals with those numbers. So that's correct at the end of the day. There are still some discrepancies between, the clerk of court's office and like the Department of Revenue's office, but they do audits and the official records are held with the clerk of court, at least here in Florida. But the issue is when you're in the courtroom and you're getting that final calculation, that's done, I believe, by like the judge's admin. That's where the issue is.
Yeah, my experience is the magistrate does the calculation, or maybe somebody within the office does a calculation for the magistrate, and then he utilizes that number. I don't really know, because the number comes in from the magistrate's order, and they don't clarify whether or not he did it, other than he's signing off on it, or if there's some support staff doing it. But whoever's doing it, once the magistrate issues his recommended order, then theoretically the judge should review it completely. In other words, they should be checking the math behind them, because once that judge issues his order based on the magistrate's recommended order, then that's what you have to follow. And neither one of those people, the judge nor the magistrate, have any accounting knowledge, as far as I know. They're both lawyers, but I don't know that there's any significant check behind these people, because they've gotten it wrong 3 times. So we're not talking about a hard math problem. We're talking about
simple.
Pretty,
it's all the inputs.
What's that?
I said it's all the inputs that goes into the calculator. If you don't get the inputs right, your output is going to be wrong.
Right.
I assume that you, as a person paying it, would utilize that calculator to raise that issue before it becomes a final order.
No, there's the problem, is that you don't get that opportunity. You have no input on their information, or their number that they put out there.
No, I mean, I'm assuming, because, okay, for example, like for mine, there was a mischaracterization of the issue. I could have raised a motion of reconsideration or appeals. I'm assuming, and I know, I think I had an attorney when this happened. He was retarded.
I say nothing disparaging about attorneys.
Yeah.
Don't represent those or reflect those. Yeah. GDNAPSC or GregDoss, continue.
I mean, I could have put those numbers in that calculator and see that they were completely off. I just didn't, obviously I didn't know what I know now to be able to challenge that. Like, I'm agreeing with the guys that it is an issue that prior to that order being put in, there is no expert in that field present to validate that, right? Because it has to be based on some factual evidence, right? That this is the number.
Has to be, or that's the rule requires it.
That is the same as Monster. That has to be based on facts. Right.
The rule requires it. Obviously, it doesn't have to be. Probably should be, but I get your point.
Right. So it's like, yeah, if that calculation is off, and I'm saying this in the interim until, of course, the process change, you can be a better client to yourself and say, hey, look, you're saying it's 800. When I put the numbers in the calculator, it's showing 500.
So hold on. That's an interesting question. So the question becomes, at issue is it necessary to have the final judgment's accuracy? Well, that's Gregory versus Rice, then, I think. I know they said everything has to be proper, but and there's a couple other cases that are probably more definitive to the numbers. But essentially what you're saying is nobody's actually checking the last number to make it accurate.
Right. Especially if you don't raise it, no one is checking it.
Well, even if you do delay, my experience has been they still get it wrong, and then they get that new wrong number. So
they get it wrong, and then you got to fight to get it right.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay. We're talking anxiety today, and so for the people out there that I guess if we can help them out at all, what I'd say is obviously you're gonna have to fight. If you have a child support calculation issue, my recommendation would be study the statute, understand how the numbers are properly calculated. It's not a hard calculation. You just have to walk through each section.
Yeah, not for one case. Especially not for just your case, because everybody forget the bigger picture. The guys are saying focus on your window of issues, your pool of issues. Go
line by line for the statute, calculate it out, and like Dele suggested, if you go into a hearing with either the judge or the magistrate, or if it's administrative, you go in there, you should know what your number should be. You should have all the supporting information to support your calculation. and I would get that in front of them. This was kind of one of the mistakes that I made because I'm assuming that this is what these guys are supposed to be doing, and they know how to do it correctly. Well, they got it wrong, and I did vacate the order delay. We have that option here, but we went back in front of the guy, and I pointed out all the errors that were made, and either he didn't get it right the second and the third time, or he just ignored what I said. So some of it is they're not understanding how to do the calculations properly, or they are ignoring people and just doing whatever they want to do, and that's the frustration that I have.
And we don't
Right.
they're
I think you got
they're
to
grossly inadequate and incompetent. We wouldn't want to say that for sure. But go ahead.
right, and I think for me, one thing I've learned because I went through the same process. For example, in Minnesota, the statute is that child support is calculated on no more than 40-hour work week, right? But when mine was calculated, the issue became it got calculated off my tax returns as opposed to my pay stub. So it included all my other businesses and stuff in that calculation, right? But then when my attorney went to argue it, he was basically arguing that, oh, instead of 800, this is just an example, it should really be 600. Well, that was not the real issue. But the court, that was the issue that was filed before the court. Well, the court looked at it and said, well, it's not more than 20%. So they may have abused their discretion, but it doesn't meet the threshold. As opposed to arguing that, wait a minute, he gave you his paycheck. Why did you use that? Was the financial affidavit required to make the calculation. The taxes is for support if you can't understand the paycheck. But there was never any issue with the paycheck, so he never brought that issue up.
Yeah.
So
and
now
I
I'm
know,
sitting back like, oh, this is how you try to play me? So now I understand that better now. Of course, I understood this 2 years after the orders came out.
yeah, but all income is still considered income to you.
Right, but
right?
not over 40 hours work a week.
He's saying statutorily is
Statutory speaking.
in Minnesota.
Yes.
It's limited to 40 hours.
Because this was the issue where it was like guys were getting put on child support, but they will get an extra job to catch up, make the payments. Well, now they will include all that payments. So you would never be able to catch up.
So are you saying in Minnesota, a second job technically would not be included in income for child support?
Yes,
calculation?
as long as
not that delay.
What?
The maximum is 40 hours.
Right. That's what I say. As long as or you can prove that one job is a maximum of 40 hours. Anything outside of that cannot be included.
But you can have two part-time jobs that make 50 hours, but they can only use 40 hours.
Correct. Correct.
Isn't that different in Florida though?
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, it's your fault you don't live in Minnesota.
Well, before you fill out a financial affidavit, representing your income.
Yeah.
But the statute says specifically, it outlines it. It's got obviously your primary employment, and then any other income. It outlines it per statute.
Yeah. And just a real quick accounting tip for those that might have their own business. For calculating child support, like, you have your revenue, your money coming in, but then you have all your expenses. A lot of times too, the courts, they look at the revenue versus subtracting out all of your legal expenses. So, as you present your case, just make sure you have your revenue minus all your expenses. And honestly too, any and kind of everything that you can think of is an expense, you can correlate that back to your business. So cell phones, if you buy a bag of chips and you're driving on the road to go do whatever you're doing for your business, all of that is a legal tax deduction. So just keep that in mind, that that's an expense, and you can essentially waive down your overall operating income at the end of the day.
Appreciate that, Rick. And by the way, not forget it, if you get a chance to contact Rick to do, if you're unable to do it yourself, I'm sure that he's going to make himself available at some point to provide at least nominal services. If not, we're going to try to do something a little bit more broadly to help as many people as possible, because the miscalculation, and I don't have any proof, and so it's kind of speculative, so take it with that grain of salt. I find it difficult to believe that these miscalculations are unintentional, particularly on this scale.
Agreed.
And so that I'm careful in saying this is that, again, I think that every case has a miscalculation, especially if there's more than one child or more than one child and more than one other parent, because there's just too many variables. And we learned that from the great Tiger, because of his situation. You said something earlier, Rick, about it would be a downscaling after the second child, and so on and so forth. That would require that the agency would bring a person back and then have to readjust every time a new case came up with a person who had previous cases.
That's 100% correct.
Okay, so then it's impossible, not impossible, it's improbable that a agency that has, whether you call them auditors, adjusters, or what have you, I don't know what you all would call them properly, in place to ensure that the accounting is proper, because these courts have these financial affidavits that they submit through the clerk. Not financial affidavits, what's it called? The clerk's affidavit of arrears. Well, that affidavit of arrears is, well, because it's an affidavit sworn to, that number is supposed to be correct. You can challenge the number. The number should be correct based upon a set of mathematical principles. Correct, Rick?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I agree.
Why'd you say how you say in the hearing, Greg?
What did I say? Wait, what did I say?
I refuse to believe you're this incompetent.
That I don't remember that part, but okay. But yeah, it's impossible. And by the way, for everybody listening, you have math guys that are here that in some cases can donate their time in certain areas to help you see things from a perspective that obviously I wasn't able to help a lot of people, many people reach. I want to see more people win. I want to see more people get this relief. One, I think we're headed for some bumpy times for some people who are not on the higher end of the economic spectrum, like oddly enough, the people who are speaking to you on this platform. And I damn sure ain't me. But the other guys who are speaking on the platform may be able to do some of this. But there's some guys who if anything happens, this child support thing can send people to the poorhouse, or, to some any other set of psychological disadvantages, dark places.
Or that resort.
Yeah. I forgot that one. The 6 months and 529.
All inclusive resort.
Exactly. Unfortunately, Melissa, you wanted to add something real quick before I try to run away again. If she's still there, I think I hit the right one.
Yeah, she can.
Yeah, you're there. You're there, Melissa.
Yeah, and now I'm trying to remember exactly what, because like so much has taken place since I was asking. The squirrels in my brain. I have no idea. All the talk, I'm like, I have a notepad with a bunch of other questions because like everybody brings up really good points. There's so much information. Like this is really beneficial. I know this is kind of off, not what I was going to ask, but just there's so much information being freely like exchanged. I have like 20 questions written down. Don't remember what the hell I was going to ask or say.
We'll get your thoughts together. Hey, Rick, were you going to share that number?
Yeah, it's out there.
Oh, it is? I'm not seeing. You said it was in the chat?
Yeah, on the chat. I'll put it back out there.
All right, my bad.
If not, I'll send it to you. That's cool. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
I'll try to let you all change. Hold on. I think we got Chris.
Melissa, are you in Florida?
Yeah, she is.
She's the number one catcher from Florida.
She's there with you. She's there with you, Brett. Same place.
Oh, well, we got to fight together. Yeah, Melissa, you're asking questions that are too logical and reasonable. I mean, part of getting over your anxiety, at least for me, is understanding, like Greg said, this is too frequent for this not to be a significant problem with the administrators in the system. And if you think about it, they don't really have any incentive to get it right. They just have an incentive to get a number out there as high as possible and then move on to the next case.
But I'm glad you said it that way, Brett. But don't they have an incentive to get it right? Because isn't that one of the requirements of the grant?
It is, but look at how difficult it is, or the difficulty we're all having in getting just a simple issue corrected. Like I've gone in front of the judge and said, Judge, here's case law that says that they cannot issue an order that is beyond what the statute allows. Those are the words I used. And this is incorrect, and here's why it's incorrect. And all I want to do is have this correct, and they still ignored it. Now,
I think, Greg, you're missing which incentive is bigger.
Oh man, hey, listen, the views and opinions.
just follow the money. I think.
Oh man, we've definitely hit it. We've definitely taken this one off the. Oh Jesus, hold on. Hey, Chris, you had a question, man, so I can get out of here.
Yeah, I just really wanted to get Rick Robertson number. I think we talked before in the past. I didn't know. I didn't save his number in the past, but I wanted to hit him up on some.
Yeah, I put it back out in the mass chat.
Yeah, it's up there. 204.
Yeah, I don't see it.
204.
Give me one moment. Let me check.
Scroll down to 204.
Okay, I got it.
I appreciate that, Rick, that you
absolutely
help the guy out, and
I'm here to help.
We talked about online and or offline. I see this. I could probably point out the procedural errors. The math guys can probably help you all in other areas. This numbers problem is bothersome for me, and it bugs me down to my soul.
Just a heads up, Melissa is trying to unmute.
Okay, there you are, Melissa.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, the numbers. I think Greg is right, because I looked through mine and I went all the way back from the beginning, and there's just the clerk of court dropped the ball, child support, everything. I think Greg's right. And I'd be interested in a class action. And I got a big mouth, in case y'all ain't noticed yet. And I wear my testicles on my chest. So I don't really back down. I'm 5'2" with shoes on. So I would have no problem standing in front of Governor DeSantis, or whatever you want to call him.
Oh God, the views and opinions do not reflect.
Do what?
The views and the views expressed by the
views expressed in this podcast are mine and mine alone.
And I represent those of Greg Doss, or GD9 Attorney Pro Se Consultants, nor Shagrat Doss, GD9 Attorney Pro Se Consultants. We continue.
Hey, Greg, I think Melissa's a little more fiery than me, even.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a redhead.
And I'm concerned, and I'm very concerned about both of you. So yeah, there's ways to get it done, and I know those financial affidavits that are one that we're responsible for what we turn in, but so is the clerk of courts for that affidavit of arrears. And it's kind of interesting to me that we do have these Office of Management and Budget. I know at the federal level, I know Florida has a comptroller who does the major accounting. You're not going to convince me that they don't have a requirement under law to make sure that those numbers are accurate, and that the process by which those numbers were acquired is also accurate and reflects proper meting of protections of fundamental rights, fundamental due process for the people who come through these agencies. No one's arguing that that a parent shouldn't pay child support. That's not the argument. It's not the argument I never had to make. It's not the issue. It's, did you do it properly? And
the question, Greg, is who do we put that question in front of? Because you're right, without question, but how do we get a response? Because as you're well aware, the court doesn't answer to us. They make that very clear. They don't answer to the citizens. They only answer to themselves. So we got to get that question in front of somebody that can force them to.
We have a new senator. She used to be your attorney general, and she was actually on my lawsuit until she was appointed senator. You can put that in front of a senator, a congressperson.
All right.
Well, I mean, you can't put it in front of the courts in the form of a class action.
No, we know that part. But then what he was saying is, the courts are always going to answer to the courts. Whether you do it in the circuit court and have the appellate court, the court is still answering to the court.
Oh, right. Yeah, I get that part. Yeah.
He's saying that there needs to be some sort of oversight because the monies that allow these agencies to operate are predicated on them following a set of prescribes. And what we now know is you're not doing it. And we have the best example in Tiger. And he said he doesn't mind. Not doing it on this show, of course, because we're talking about anxiety. But I think a lot of the anxiety is because of the things that we don't know, and we're not approaching these things from the grander scheme properly. I think we're conflating too many issues versus stepping in to address our individual issues. Before worrying about the class action, let's take care of the 15 to 20 people who are immediately within the circle of people that we can help, because then you can get the necessary evidence to show that, hey, listen, you did it here, you did it here, did it here. Like in Florida, we have 4 of us here that are in Florida. You could do that probably in Minnesota. And if we got 4, we got 40. If we have 40, we have 400, and so on and so forth.
Right. But also remember, as the courts can come up with, well, I guess they could do their own statute, but Congress does come up with statutes too. So you want to remember that in your elections and things like that, and talking to your senators and governors.
They write the law. They write the law. Congress writes
the
law.
Yep. So
state or federal, Congress writes law.
So there you go. Those are avenues and people you can put those in front of.
And don't be afraid to knock on the door. I do.
We need the momentum. Like Greg said, we got to take the people that we have on this call. We got to get some momentum and some success. I'm working on my end, pushing really hard. It sounds like Melissa's going to put in a good fight. Rick's obviously done some work. So if we can get some momentum and point out where the issues are, then maybe it'll help us if we decide to go further with it. But I think the courts, for whatever reason, whether they're incompetent or whether it's the system, who knows? But the bottom line is there's enough, statistically speaking, there are too many people that are having issues with this. And so I think we just need to have enough people pushing and forcing them to do the right thing, because maybe in the past, just because the information wasn't as readily available, we like all of us feel on this call, we just don't understand why such a simple thing is being made so difficult. And so probably in the past, most people just gave up because maybe they didn't have anxiety to go in there and fight. But I think that's going away, and I think we're kind of seeing a movement kind of pushing against government in general right now.
Well, I saw something that's pretty interesting. As we were doing this, I get these updates, and I have a couple of sites, but it's interesting. It's coming out of Florida, and it says oversight performed by the state's agency created to police Florida's long troubled professional guardians is so poor that one of the state's top auditors likened it to allowing students to grade themselves. And there's more to this, but I'm looking at this Department of Elderly Affairs, and I'm thinking about us, the conversation we're having now within this context. There has to be somebody responsible for it. We can find out who's responsible for it, and and then you all's individual states, because we have everywhere from Florida. Actually, I forgot Mike's in Florida. We have everywhere from Florida to Texas, Minnesota, here at least, and even North Carolina and South Carolina. So you just have to get people in your circle. One becomes two, and so on and so forth. And I think that this is how you can make the change, because you can get people's attention with Greg,
I don't know if Melissa was talking earlier when I was off the call, but I'm really interested to hear a little more about Melissa's situation for selfish reasons. So we know that we have people that are in the lower income bracket that struggle, or they have multiple children, and that's obviously impacting their income as well. And I think they're probably being taken advantage of. Exactly. And then we know that people that are in a little bit better financial position and are from professional careers, Dele, Rick, myself, we know they're having issues too. And historically it's been men, no discount to women, but historically it's been men dealing with this shit. I want to hear for selfish reasons Melissa's issue. Not that it can't happen to both, but I'm just curious. Melissa, tell us what's going on with you. Is she muted? She might. There we go.
She's good.
So mine started out, I just did the math last night because I was getting some stuff ready for speaking with Greg, so I, respect his time and whatnot. My initial petition, like when I left my husband, I was legally married to my husband when I sat in front of that child support judge for the first time. I didn't know my rights. I had an 8th grade education. I just got my high school diploma in 2021. Never give up. Better late than never. But over 209 days went between the last action on my case, the initial petition and the summons, the notice of related cases was May 18th, 2011. The summons was served via substitute service against on my estranged mother February 23rd, 2012. That's a lot longer than 120 days.
You too.
Do what?
That's background.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
So Melissa, let's it sounds like you've been dealing with it for quite a while.
Since 2011.
And you're saying your calculations haven't been correct from the beginning?
Oh no. And my clerk of court historically just ignores, like when I finally did receive a phone call telling me, hey, I just got this paperwork, which they didn't sign. My mom didn't actually, I found out later, my mom didn't actually meet the process server. He just gave up, and the neighbor told him what my mother's name was. He wrote it down and left it on her doorstep. But either way, I responded to.
Listen, you have any proof of that?
If I can get a hold of the neighbor still, yes, but I know it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. I'm just giving you the information. I responded within 20 days. I responded on the 15th day, response to petition for support. I gave them my actual income at that time. I told them that I had fled domestic violence, that I was living from place to place, that we needed to establish custody. Now, fast forward, they went ahead with the hearing anyways. My response did not warrant what the statute said that it should have. So not only did they exceed the 120 days, they served the petition via substitute service. I responded within the 20 days. They did not stop the proceeding. Nothing happened that was supposed to happen. So I stood in front of this judge. They did not let me provide any evidence. They imputed me at minimum wage, despite the fact that I worked part-time. Everything was ignored. So then, time goes on and I have no idea what I'm doing. Just like Greg said earlier, what everyone else said in the beginning, when you're getting your ass kicked, you get defeated. You're like, they're not listening to me. They won't listen to me. They just treat me like crap. I can't get in a word edgewise. They just talk over me. And then again, I had an 8th grade education. I did not understand the law. I didn't understand my rights. I fell victim to the game. And it's just been egregious mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. Even with the clerk of court. So like I have 2 different entities where like the Department of Revenue has historically and repeatedly just ignored rules of procedure, due process, et cetera, et cetera. And then on the same hand, the Manatee County Clerk of the Circuit Court has continuously dropped the ball, miscalculations, errors in the financial information, application for indigent service or indigent status that my ex-husband filed, denied. He reapplied 15 days later with different information and then was suddenly improved. It's just little things that gave him an edge, but it also made me understand that like this is what most of you men go through. Most of you men fall victim to the woman getting away with all these little things, but these little things add up. And it's like, I've literally had my license suspended 8 times, My car has been repossessed. I've been fired from jobs because I lost my driver's license. And it's like the people with the power don't understand that you're putting us in a perpetual state of struggle.
I
You're
wouldn't
putting
say they don't understand it.
it, and unless I really feel like, I know it's a joke that I said a long time ago, but I really feel like the only way we could ever get some of these upper politicians to understand is like sort of like a reality TV show where, okay, listen, Senator so and so or Governor Ron DeSantis, you're
Views
let's see
and
if you can
opinions.
let's see if you can survive. We're going to give you 6 months. You have no phone, you have no internet, you have no income. Your car is a 1977 Volkswagen Beetle. Only one window rolls down. You have nothing. Let's see you pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Well, I think that some of this, though, is that's speaking more to what the problems are versus speaking to what the law requires and what's not being followed. When you talk about an audit says, this is what the law says, this is what the rule says, this is what I'm looking at. And I guess, right, Rick, the prescribes are there. Whatever the standard is the standard. You just want to check your boxes to make sure that the boxes that whatever's done matches what the box requires. Don't worry about all the other stuff. Just say, listen, I wasn't properly served. I think I heard that. And this is what made this glaring, Melissa. You're saying your husband's interests are allegedly represented by the Department of Revenue, correct?
Well, I mean, he was the petitioner. He was the one who filed for welfare.
Okay, but he's not the petitioner. 12.040 C2. Florida Family Law Rules of Procedure. Hold on a second. As I pull it up.
12.0 what?
40 C2.
So Melissa, you've been dealing with this since 2012, I think you said?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Y'all see the screen?
Yep.
Which one is this? Okay.
Go ahead. Anybody want to take that for?
An attorney for the state's Title 4D Child Support Enforcement Agency who appears in a family law matter governed by these rules shall file a notice informing the recipient of the Title 4D services and other parties to the case that the 4D attorney represents only the title blah blah blah. The notice must state that the blah, blah, blah.
That's not a blah blah blah.
No, I'm just
the case that the 4D attorney represents only the Title 4D agency and not the recipient of the services. What do we substitute for Title 4D agency, people? What's that mean? What does
Child
that mean?
support.
Which means what?
It's the Florida Department of Revenue.
Which means
state.
The state.
But let's be honest, though.
No,
that's not the perception that you get, because
I get that. So forget what the perception you get.
Well,
that's the fact. So now, when I ask the question, is it your position that the mother applying for benefits gives her a subrogatable right? It goes to a fact. And it does mean that as well. So if the state is saying the mother had a subrogatable right, okay, state, what subrogatable right did she have? She never filed an independent action. Now, we can get into the thickets on an individual case, and I'm trying to run to the door, but the point still remains.
We gotta let this man go.
I know I have something to do, even if it's nothing. The point is, we can break these things down case by case, and what the math guys are going to do for us, for all of us, is help us. I don't like these because I hate Brett every time I go to a fucking stoplight and I'm on the road, and I know it's not him. He's not a what kind of engineer is that, Brett?
I'm not a traffic engineer, Greg, and I hate him too.
I go there and there's nobody else within 10 miles, and the light turns red. What the fuck is this? But it's but the math guys can help us all focus and stay linear for each issue, because it's like we get distracted, man. If I have an ability, I may have many beyond being able to catch a football and dance. I just know how to focus on what the issue is. It's like a target to me. That's the target. And
let me use mine as an example real quick before I jump off of this meeting. I think the last barbershop we had, I asked a question about why the county attorney is involved in my case, and I actually looked at the standard because Greg did say that the reason that why they're able to intervene in my case was because my child apparently is receiving public assistance. Now they're intervening on behalf of my child when the mother was the one that actually went to go request public assistance, and public assistance she requesting was insurance, which is funny because now when I'm going back to say, hey, the county's impermissibly intrusive, is like, first of all, my son I've carried insurance on my son his whole life. What entitles her then to come and ask for insurance, and then you coming after me for what she asked for?
Without having spoken to you at all.
Exactly. So this is what Greg is talking about, making it linear now. Because before I was just screaming like, what the fuck y'all doing here? I didn't ask for you. But now I look up the standard of why they're there, and now I'm attacking them based on that standard because my child does not need public assistance. The mom just wants to have her own way. That's why she went to get insurance. Now she could do whatever she wants.
Standard too, Daily, right? Not to cut you off. In there also a standard. We don't know what she asked for. We just know that she's here. But what is the standard for determining that she's eligible? Because she's eligible, she's eligible. That doesn't mean that somebody has to pay for her what she's eligible for, because we have what's called, general welfare fund. There's a United States General Welfare Fund, and there's Florida, and whatever the state is Minnesota. But go ahead, Dayle.
Right. So then my point is, like, it's clear to me how I'm going to attack and say, hey, look, you don't need to be here. And if you need to be here, I'm not the one who should be paying for you to be here.
Jesus. Okay.
But that's just my way of breaking down. Say, okay, look, I don't care what she put on paper, what she asked for. Then you deal with her. But if you're going to come here, because basically she was standing behind that county attorney. She, not to put her out there, whatever. She wasn't competent to say anything. Huh?
You just did.
Okay, whatever. But she couldn't say anything in the hearing. So it was basically like the county attorney was going against me, and I'm like, wait a minute, who are you? So.
Daylight here in Florida, all they have to do is go on the website and essentially submit an email through the website requesting assistance, and that triggers the involvement of the state.
Yep.
So that's a due process violation right there. They automated it through a website.
That's what I'm going through right now. Petition for modification.
And I, luckily for me, I've got testimony wherein she testified that she's not receiving any funds from the state, and my ex just did it out of spite, like you said, Dayle, because she wasn't getting her way.
Using opinions. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, in her defense, I don't think she was doing out of spite. She just didn't understand it. She just feels like he needs insurance that she controls. So now, because one, she can't afford it herself, and I can't. I guess she doesn't feel like she doesn't want to talk to me about it. But it's like, well, then why am I paying for it?
And did the state perform all the necessary prerequisites?
Right.
Before determining that I owed anything, and
not even that, I'm paying more than twice the amount for it.
And that was another thing we came with, right, Rick? About because the insurance question came to me because of Brett, and I appreciate him because I didn't think about it. But on an individual basis, it's one thing. Like Brett, yours is through your company pays for it, and whatever you do. But here's what we talked about, Brett. Is
no, Greg. Just to be clear, because it's obviously recorded. I don't want that to get out the wrong way. And the other piece I want to make sure is that people understand how this works. So, per Florida statute, it's probably similar elsewhere. You can deduct if one parent pays the insurance, that's something that they can deduct from their child support responsibility per statute.
Right. But my point was this: you have that. So that's an individual thing. But we're talking about, like, say somebody like for people on Medicaid or group insurance policy. So let's say, like like say a guy, like 10 guys have 2 kids apiece, but they're all on state insurance. Well, they're part of a group policy, correct? And the group policy is broken down by some set of factors. I don't think those factors are being considered.
Yeah, so if the parent pays for their insurance and they have all those kids covered under that insurance policy, and the other parent isn't paying for any insurance, then they should be getting credit for that, which would reduce their child support obligation.
But what if they're on public assistance? That means it's a public policy with multiple members, right?
You're saying the parent is on a public policy?
No, I don't care about the parent. I don't think the policy. You're not paying for the other parent's policy, aren't they? They're paying for the coverage as it relates to the children, not as it relates to the person. But the children are on like a multi-member policy. It's like having 1 million people on Florida Blue, but the policy number comes down because so many people are on the policy. What is the exact policy number that you can attribute to a parent because that child is on public assistance? I don't want to say public assistance, whatever it is. There's some sort of formula that gets them to these numbers. They're just kind of like broad brushing or just blowing through what I'm thinking is the process. So if you're a member of a group that has 1 million members, your contribution is lower, right? Than if you're a person that has 200,000 members or 1,000 members. Your contribution is higher with the smaller group. But I'm thinking, how many kids in Florida are on Medicaid or whatever it is that they're claiming you need to pay them back for?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, yeah, that's kind of mixing things up. But Medicaid, that public assistance is completely different from what the statute, I think, contemplates.
Right. I agree. Yeah, I agree. Because it speaks to people who are outside of that particular position.
I think the way they're looking at it is, if you're on public assistance, then the state's going to try to recuperate whatever money they're paying for that child through the parent that is paying for support.
And I'm okay with that. But state, what did you contribute if it's Medicaid? That money.
Exactly. Yeah. How much
did you contribute that you think I have to pay you back for? And where the fuck did you get the money? Because the state doesn't have money.
And I don't think they contemplate that at all. And from what I can see in the statutes, I don't think that's even in there. But if you're paying a private policy, they should be giving you credit for that properly. And I'm not giving credit personally for that properly.
Right. Absolutely. And if you're paying in a public policy, the public paid for the policy. So what do you owe the state?
That is a good question. I don't think I've ever seen anything in the statute that would cover that.
Yeah, a simple civics test. A simple civics class would help have everybody asking these kind of questions. If the state's funding it, motherfucker, I'm the state. All right, guys. One more quick question. After Chris, you had something to add, and I don't know what happened to Melissa just now.
Yeah, I just wanted to say with that, because I recently just qualified for Medicaid as well, and I looked at the statute codes in Georgia. They won't even address it. The courts won't even address that at all.
Well, that would be called common law. If it's not statutorily explained, the courts could make a decision on that case if they choose to take it up. Or you can argue to the Supreme Court directly and says that Georgia's failure to consider which I'm thinking is already there, wouldn't you, Brett? That if you're poor, you can't be forced to do anything. And that threshold it's not, I don't want to say poor may sound a little more demeaning, but not, if you're economically challenged, you can't.
Or low income.
Right, well, it means you're economically challenged. There's provisions that refute that they don't allow them to do certain things to you because of your economic status.
Your obligation is based on your income,
right?
Yeah. The number of children that you're supporting, and the income of the other parent. So, the less money you make, then the less
that's your obligation. The obligation you can have, yeah.
And then the state has to pick that up. And so, like you said, I'm okay with the state trying to recoup their money, but I'm also for the state doing the calculation properly, because I shouldn't be taken advantage of because they can't do their job.
Oh God. Yeah, I think it's definitely time to get out of here. Jesus, man.
Keeping it real. It's the barbershop.
Yeah, man. Jesus, terrible, bro.
We're saying the same thing, Greg. You just said it a much more politically correct way than I do.
I just try to articulate it in a way that doesn't so criticize people.
Let me say it like Greg does. The stewards of our child support and family court process should be fully educated into the laws and standards that helps them do their job properly. How about that?
As have been prescribed by statute, code, and
Exactly.
gosh, man. Melissa, anything you needed before as our last question? And I've done 2 hours, about
Okay,
an hour and 45 minutes longer than I wanted, but go ahead.
I wanted to answer your question. I asked 3 different types of AI. Who oversees Florida Department of Revenue and ensures fair child support orders that comply with state and federal laws? And it says there are several entities, blah, blah, blah. 1, Florida Circuit and District Courts is judicial oversight. Florida Administrative Law Judges. The Florida Inspector General for internal oversight.
That's him. That's it.
Yep.
Inspector General. Yep.
That's it. And stay away from AI sometime, but yes, it's IG.
Oh no, I made that mistake. I double check, triple check everything this stupid bot tells me.
Yeah, I IG and your comptroller make sure the money's go out properly. So, but they have obligations and responsibilities. It's just that people don't tend to bring them out. And if you sue them for some failure, then the attorney general will be representing them. Just like when you sue, which you can't really do other than for a declaratory judgment. If you bring an action against certain individuals that are state employees, the attorney general will represent them. I've learned because I've sued some entities before. Even when I sued Judge Holder, the attorney general always represented him.
Hey Rick, I'm gonna reach out.
All right.
Get your input on what I need to do in the future.
Yeah. I appreciate everybody for stopping by, and as always, imparting. Sometimes it's not about right or wrong. More importantly, it's about clarity. You'll never reach resolution if you're not willing to engage in honest dialogue, even if that dialogue is with yourself. Take time to hug the person you love the person you hug. On behalf of GD and Attorney Pro Se Consultants, I appreciate everybody staying with us when we had these technical difficulties. I'm glad we got it sorted out. Hey, I'm Greg Doss. I'm the infamous DJ Squid. I'm saying peace. I'm saying chicken grease. Y'all take it easy, and I'm out.
Bye, guys.